Hey guys, hope everybody is doing well. Ever since the Inflation Reduction Act was signed in mid-August, I've got some questions regarding the EV tax credit and how it works, and I want to help clarify some of that based on my understanding. Now, I have a background in economics. I studied economics in undergrad, and I've worked in finance and operations over the last handful of years. I currently work as a data analyst, so I understand numbers very well. The tax credit is very convoluted in the way that it works, and based on adjusted gross income and things like that, you will only receive the tax credit for the amount of taxes that you owe. So if you work through the year and you end up with $6,000 in taxable income, you will only receive a $6,000 credit. But if you work and you earn enough income to have $10,000 in taxable income, then you will receive a $7,500 tax credit. Now, the part of the tax credit that I'm talking about begins on January 1st, 2023. And the good news with the credit is that the $200,000 cap is lifted, and so there is no longer a cap on the number of vehicles that a manufacturer can sell. And this mainly affects General Motors and Tesla that were over their caps already. So the tax credit is now going to apply to them for their eligible vehicles beginning on January 1st, and that's good news for anybody who's looking to get into a Model 3, some Model Ys, and the Bolt EUV and the Bolt EV and other vehicles that General Motors might be manufacturing next year. The bad news is, because of the way that the tax credit is structured, a lot of manufacturers no longer qualify, including Kia, Hyundai. It's unfortunate that there are a lot of cars that people want that will not be eligible, and that's one of, to me, the major downsides of the tax credit, is that it's making electric vehicles less accessible in the short run. So to qualify for the tax credit, vehicle must be assembled in North America. So Ford does some manufacturing in Mexico, General Motors does some manufacturing in Canada. All of those vehicles that are manufactured in Mexico and Canada will qualify for the tax credit, along with vehicles, of course, that are manufactured, or I should say assembled, not manufactured, in the United States. Now, the tax credit is broken up into two pieces, and a vehicle will qualify for each piece individually, I believe. The first part of the credit, $3,750, is based on vehicles having 40% of the mineral component of the battery be manufactured in the United States or in countries with which the United States has a trade agreement. For example, Kia manufactures their batteries in Korea, and we have a free trade agreement with Korea. They would potentially qualify if they shifted the final assembly of their vehicles from Korea into North America. So that's something that VW has done with the new ID.4. So from 2023, the VW ID.4, for example, will qualify for the tax credit because even though the battery components aren't from North America, the final assembly is in North America. Now, the second part of the credit, $3,750, is based on 50% or more of the battery components coming from the United States or countries with which we have a free trade agreement. So basically, we're looking at 40% or greater minerals from the United States or countries with which we have a free trade agreement, and 50% or greater battery components coming from the United States or countries with which we have a free trade agreement. Now, I understand the part of that is looking at sustainability and making sure that the supply chain shifts towards the United States. And what we'll see with this tax law is, as we get to 2024, 2025 and beyond, those components and minerals go from 40% and 50% to larger and larger amounts, so shifting the mineral component and the overall battery components away from countries that aren't our free trade partners into countries that are the United States who are free trade partners. I understand why our government wants to do that. Like I said earlier, it makes electric vehicles less accessible to us in the short run. Now, the other component of the EV tax credit that I like is that it's also going to apply for used electric vehicles purchased after January 2023. There's a $4,000 cap, but basically 30% of a used EV at a price of $25,000 or below will be eligible for up to $4,000 tax credit. So that's another benefit and a good thing. As you guys know, I prefer cheaper cars, and once this whole supply chain thing goes away, the price of cars is going to go back down and you will be able to get used EVs for $20,000 and under. It's just a question of when, and it will be good for people who are budget conscious to still be able to get a little bit of help in making that transition from traditional ICE vehicles into electric vehicles. This tax credit in the short run is making electric vehicles less accessible to the general public. So here's a list of all of the vehicles that will qualify for the tax credit as of now, beginning in January 2023. And there may be some more vehicles added to this list. I'm not sure, so we'll just have to wait and see. So there's the Cadillac Lyriq, the Chevy Bolt EV and EUV, Ford Mustang Mach-E and Ford F-150 Lightning, the Ford Transit van, the Nissan Leaf, Rivian R1T and R1S, and Tesla Model 3 and Model Y vehicles that cost $55,000 or below. And of course the Volkswagen ID4 that's going to be built, I believe, in Chattanooga, Tennessee. For the Model Y, if it's classified as an SUV, then that limit goes up to $80,000. And then there are also income components of the tax credit at $150,000 for a single, up to $300,000 for a couple, and then there's also a limit for head of household. This is all detailed tax information that you need to talk to a tax accountant about. I am not a tax professional and I am not giving any tax advice here, just helping you guys understand how the tax credit works in general. So guys, one other component of the EV tax credit law that was really odd and not very consumer friendly is that the final point of assembly in North America and the battery component and the mineral component of the battery, those parts of the law took effect immediately when it was signed in August 2015. So if you are planning on purchasing an electric vehicle between August 16th and December 31st, if it's not on that very short list of vehicles that have a manufacturer point in North America and meets the battery criteria, for example, the Polestar 2 that I had ordered, if I had ordered that after August 16th, it would not have been eligible for the $7,500 tax credit that was otherwise available. That is very, very strange. Now, in my case, I had initially ordered that Polestar before August 16th. What Polestar did was they called me and had me sign a purchase agreement, and basically because that purchase agreement was signed before President Biden signed the law and put it into effect, I would have still qualified for the $7,500 tax credit if I had taken possession of the Polestar between August 16th and December 31st. We decided that it wasn't a very prudent financial decision for us to take possession of that car. But for those of you who are waiting to order a car, for example, if VW had an ID4 that was sitting on the lot and nobody had claimed it, you would have been able to go and buy it and still qualify for the tax credit before this law was signed. So I don't know if it was an intentional misstep or if it's something that they did intentionally, but it significantly reduced the market of cars that qualified for the $7,500 tax credit from around 40 to 50 electric cars and plugins to around 20 EVs and plugins. So it was really a strange move by an administration that is trying to encourage people to go into green technology and specifically into electric vehicles to pass a law that just left this 4-month gap for people wanting an electric vehicle, where basically you have to sit on the sidelines and wait until January 23 to take possession of your new electric vehicle that has a manufacturer point in North America. I don't like laws like this because it really messes with the free market. And a car like the one that I have now, I was able to get a credit on my Kia Niro because I bought it before the law was signed. I actually got an $8,500 credit on it, and that's a whole other story. Somebody who wants the Kia Niro today or a Kia EV6 that is semi-affordable, or the Hyundai product, they are going to be at a competitive disadvantage because they are not able to take advantage of this tax law, even though their battery components and their minerals are mined from the same place where General Motors is getting theirs. Because the final assembly point isn't in North America, they are not able to, or their customers are not able to get that tax credit. So I think that's a major misstep in how this law was implemented. Of course, we all know that General Motors had a large part in how the law was written, and as did Ford. Part of it was it's a job programs for the unions in Michigan. We all know that, so I'm not going to hide from that. At least Tesla and Rivian are also able to benefit from this new law. Those are aspects of the law that I don't like at all. They're anti-competitive. In a way, it's not really in the American spirit to be deciding winners and losers. But anyway, guys, that's what I have on the EV tax credit law that went into effect on August 16th, 2022, and affects vehicles, new EVs beginning on January 1st, 2023. So if you're in a market for an American vehicle that's all electric or plug-in, like the Jeep Wrangler 4xe, for example, or the Jeep Grand Cherokee, those are both great vehicles, 4xEs, with around 25 miles of range, they would qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. They actually qualify now because their manufacturer point is in the United States. You've made it this far. Go ahead and like and subscribe to get more EV content, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.